Hey guys, how's it going? And today, as you can probably tell, I'm going to be doing a how-to manual video. As you can see, we've had a little change of location, so we've come to the sort of one of the local BMX tracks today. Sorry, I've not done a video in a while. We've done a few trips at the same places, and then I've just had Corona as well. So finally trying to get back into it, get a few more videos out there. So where we are is pretty much the perfect place to learn manuals, really. So because you've got sort of a few different types and shapes of rollers, so it can help because when you actually on trails and things like that, you'll have sort of slopes and little pumps that you can use. So when once you've learned how to manual, you can sort of use that through sections like that, and also you'll get straight sections through trails, and a lot of the time you'll just sit there and just sort of ride through it. But when you know how to manual, you can just do all that through it, and it just makes things like that a little bit more fun. So I'll give you a few sort of tips here and there and things I learned, and hopefully it'll help you out. Okay, so with these, I'd probably say the most important thing when you're first starting is just knowing to keep your finger over the brake. You see a lot of people trying, especially with things like wheelies as well, you'll see people just ride like that. So if you go too far, that's just game over really. So the most important thing, like I say, is just keep your finger on that. But basically what you want to do is, once you're up in the manual, I'll explain how to get to that bit, but once you're actually up in the manual, you want to be riding the brakes a little bit. So in case you feel like you're about to loop out, you can just give it a little bit of brake. One thing that you could probably get too used to doing though is just jamming the brake on straight away, and that'll just bring the front straight back down. So obviously you're not going to get that far. So what you really want to be doing then is, once you're actually up in that manual and sort of up in that balance, is just trying to feather the brake, so not too much so you don't stop, but you just want to keep it so you don't loop out. So you should be able to go pretty much as long as you want if you've got a big enough hill. Right, I'll quickly just give you an example of what I mean by when I say sort of when you give the brake too much, because you'll see that I pretty quickly just stop dead, which is fine when you first sort of start learning, but it's a habit you sort of want to try and get out of pretty quickly. So yeah, here's that. You see it just goes straight down like that, that's too much. And then now I'm going to show you the complete opposite. So when you don't give it enough brake, you're going to start to loop out. So I'll keep my finger off the brake just so you can see I've got no brake. So that's another thing. I'd say you want to get used to looping out on purpose, because until you do loop out, you're never really going to know the balance point. So you're going to loop out. And you're going to loop out, yeah. So I'd definitely say just practice a few times first of all, and this is pretty much what I did as well, just doing exactly what I just did there, trying to just jump off the pedals when you go too far, because that way it's not going to catch you out when you're going 25 miles an hour down a hill. So we'll move on to the next tip. Alright, so the next thing I find catches a few people out, is you see it a few times in sort of videos and things like that when people try it, is they use their arms too much. What you don't really expect is you wouldn't really think it, but you use your legs and your hips more than your arms. Reason why is because when people end up trying to pull up, they end up pulling up with the front, and it just pretty much just brings your weight forward and you just drop it near enough straight away. And you'll see people go up like this, and then like you can see, it just brings the front down. So I'll show you how I'm using my legs. You can see I'm not really pulling with the arms at all, so I'll quickly just give you an example of that. You can see that the front just goes straight down, and it looks pretty strange as well. So I'll show you I'll show you the opposite of that. So if you watch, you can see I'll slow-mo it, but you can see I'm barely pulling my arms. Okay, on to the next bit. Alright, so on to the next tip, and I find this one's pretty crucial really. So what you want to do with manuals to make it easier for yourself and to give you less chance of looping out is actually staying pretty much as low as you can to the back wheel. You see a few times people will be up, and you'll see the bike is a lot steeper, so it's going to be a lot easier to loop out, and they'll be really up high and really just trying to stay upright. Whereas if you drop down low, you can see how much lower the front wheel can be, so you've got much less chance of you've got so much more room for the bike to go back before you loop out, and they look whilst easier. Yeah, and it looks just a lot better, lots better. So you'll see in videos if you've seen Bernard Kerr, he does these really steep meerkat manual things. I'll show you one of them in a second. Basically they're really difficult because if you're going down a hill and you're up this high and you're really stood up straight with your arms straight, you've basically got that much room before you loop out, whereas when you're doing a proper manual, you've got all this room to loop out. So I'll show you how that is. Okay, so you can see how low you can pretty much get compared to being up like this. This is what I mean when you have got literally no room to play with. Ones like that, they look pretty funny, but they're difficult. Right, so now I'd probably say it's the most important thing of all really with manuals, is actually like, so you don't want to just pull back and just hope to get in the manual. You want to try and sort of go, push your body weight down to just almost pump into the ground, and then just drag it back, and then you've got a few extras, then go down, then drag back and just sort of try and hang over the tyre. You'll see a lot of people, they'll just literally just try and pull back and hope the front comes up. Whereas I found it so much easier, you just have to push quite down hard into the ground and then drag back. You can't do it in one motion. That's probably one of the key tips. I'll show you what happens when you just try and pull straight back. This is when you just pull straight back. You can see I had no pump and I could barely keep it up because I was so high as well. So this time I'm going to go down, then pull back, and you'll see I'll do it in slow motion so you can see. I'm pumping down, then dragging back like I say. You see how much easier that comes up? At this point, by now, if you've done all the rest of the tips, you've probably worked out how to get the front up a little bit. Next bit is just sort of trying to control like how high and how low you want to be. So a lot of people can, you know, obviously just use the back brake to just sort of feather yourself and put yourself down. But what I'd say is, and it helps a lot actually, to keep your heels. So when you've got your feet on the pedals, keep your heels dipped a little bit, because it stops you from like going all awkward. You just keep pushing all your weight through. You want to try pretty much as if you're going to pump on flat, but just while you're in the manual, you sort of push back. You'll see, you've probably seen it in videos before, people doing all this, trying to just adjust it, and all that is doing is basically bringing the front up, and when, you know, when they come forward, it's putting the front down a bit. And that way, the better you get at doing that, the less you'll have to use the brake ultimately, because you just get, you know, you'll get the technique pretty dialed. So I'll just show you a little clip. I'll do a bit more on purpose, just trying to show you it, and hopefully that helps a little bit, because it's a pretty handy tip. That helps, especially when you're going really slow, as you can see, because I was pretty much at a standstill. On to the next tip. Right, so that's pretty much all the flat techniques sorted. So if you're just trying to learn how to manual on the road or something, that'll pretty much have you covered. But you know, if you're out on like a trail or something, you're going to have like little pumps here and there, whether they're natural or they've been built in. So it's handy, as we're at the skate park, to show you it on some pumps. So you can see this is quite a mellow sort of set here. You know, there's not really a big transition like some of these other ones here. And you can see behind you as well, you've got some much bigger transition ones as well, so that's going to be even harder to do. So hence wise, I'll show you with these. So you can see that it's, you know, there's not much transition at all. So what you pretty much want to do is, as you're coming up the transition and over this sort of crest, the front wheel is going to want to dip. So what I'd say is you want to just lean down and like pump a little bit more, like I was saying before. And what that'll do is it'll just stop your front from dipping down. As usual, you know, if you feel like the front's going too high, you can always just hit the back brake. But it's all just practice with this now. So I'd start off with these smaller rollers and smaller pumps, because it's just, you know, you're not going to go nearly as quick. It's a bit easier as well. So I'll quickly show you just doing it for you here, and you can see how I'm sort of pumping the bike to get through the transitions. Right, so as you can see there, you can see I'm really like pumping through these bits just to try and keep the speed. Because you'll find is if you just hit them as if you were going to do a straight manual, you're just going to hit that first sort of upward crest, and it's just going to drop the front straight away. So you just got to try and soak up the roller and then pump down the downslope. So now we've done these, we'll move on to a few more extreme ones down here where there's a bit bigger transitions. So it's basically exactly what we just did here. You just have to be a bit more forceful with it, and it helps to carry a bit of speed through it as well. Yeah, so as you can probably see, I was going a bit faster because that helps a little bit, like I said before. And you can see with these, I was just pumping that little bit more to try and carry speed. And it also goes back to, you know, what I was saying earlier about trying to stay low on the bike, because if I was really high up, it'd be so hard or so easy for me to loop out and just lose all my momentum. So you can stay low, and like I said before, you've got way more room before you're going to loop out. As you can see, it's fairly windy today, so that makes it a little bit more difficult, especially when you're somewhere like where we are, where it's just completely open. you know, you'll find you'll get pushed a little bit to the side on some of these bits. So what you do find is you do have to go a little bit quicker when you're trying to do these straights, because like I said before, you're going to be trying to pump to keep your speed, but you could also, and I found it especially when I was starting to try and do these, I'd be riding the brakes loads and you just can never carry any speed. So your aim is basically just to try and get through it with no brakes, well, as little brakes as possible. So I'm going to try and do the whole straight, and then Stu's going to do a follow cam on me and we'll get one sort of smooth shot.
Oh. Oh my god! Straight up, you're still recording. That was sick.
That was so close.
That was so close.
That was so close to a first go.
I nearly crashed.
Did you?
I went up that.
There you go. So as you can see, there's another little thing, so a manual lander. So I've already done a video on that, so I'll link that in the description below. That's basically like the next place you can step up these manuals to. One last thing I do want to mention is when I was learning how to do manuals, I didn't really know how to do them, but I could wheelie in the first place. And what I found was from learning how to wheelie, I sort of knew where the balance point was already. But like I've explained before, with just sort of adjusting your weight and, you know, from looping out yourself, doing it on purpose, you're going to get a rough idea. If you can't wheelie or anything like that already, you're going to be able to gauge the sort of balance point just from doing that over and over again. So hopefully you've enjoyed the video anyway, and hopefully these tips have helped out a fair bit. Like I say, when I was learning, I didn't really have any of these sort of videos to look at. I was just trying to learn it off my own back, so you should be able to learn it a lot quicker. But I hope you've enjoyed the video anyway. Going to be more videos coming out soon. I'm going to try and get on it a bit more now anyway. So got a few sort of things planned, things like that, so I'll try and get some more videos out. But in the meantime, give it a like if you did enjoy the video. If you do learn to manual from this, just, you know, get any clips, things like that, just send them to me on Instagram, or just let me know in the comments or something like that below. But yeah, hope you enjoy.